Welcome to Global News Today. My name is Vanessa Moreno.
And my name is Rithy+Joanne. Today we hit the streets of Long Beach to get perspectives and views of gender inequalities and equality from everyday people. Here's what they had to say.
Okay, so the question is, how do you feel about gender inequality or equality in the workforce?
Well, there's plenty of gender inequality, women being paid less and not getting enough work. It seems like the man's viewpoint is always ahead of the woman's.
And why would you say that is?
Because, the United States has a housewife mentality. It's always the wife is always relegated to the second base, not out in the forefront.
I mean, I definitely think the workforce is still unequal, even though they've come a long way, both minorities and women. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I know on average women still make less than men do. And also there's just an underrepresentation of women in the workforce too, which is problematic in and of itself, right? So
I believe there's inequality currently in the workforce.
How? Like, what makes you?
Well, it depends what you're talking about. I mean, there's still somewhat of a glass ceiling for women. I mean, if you're homosexual or black, I think you're at a disadvantage, or of like a minority.
Because actually I knew a buddy that had a company that had two women that was driving for him. But they actually, hands down, they was actually better drivers than most of the dudes. Was more loyal, was always on time. He never had a problem. He told me he never had a problem on them being on time or nothing like that. They always took care of business. You know what I'm saying? Always. Never had a problem, like a lot of disputes or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's either or. You know, I don't know if it's just because of they were women and they was more loyal to it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Or if it was just the simple fact that they just did a better job than men.
Socialist countries have much more like equality as far as like benefits go for women who are in the workplace, and I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. I feel like a lot of problem for women going into the workplace is they all eventually want to have families, and I feel like that is possibly where some of the discrimination comes, or inequality comes from, because eventually a large percentage of women are going to have to take time off to have a child, but in countries like socialist countries that give both women and men time off for the baby, I think it's more equal and it's a little bit better, maybe.
Imagínate, si dicen a una mujer la pones a hacer un trabajo muy fuerte que sea excesivo, no lo va a poder hacer.
¿Por qué? ¿Porque no es fuerte o porque no es capaz?
Yo creo que porque no es fuerte, pero sí poder, o sea, quiere decir que sí lo trata de hacer, pero no lo va a poder hacer.
¿Por qué?
El hombre es muy fuerte, eso.
I think men can provide more labor, physical labor, and therefore they should be worth more.
But we have a lot of women now working in the same industries as men. Doesn't that tell you that women are capable of doing the same job?
Well, after women's liberation in the 1970s, a lot more doors opened for women, but it doesn't mean that they're more qualified or they should get paid as much just because we're being nice and letting women work. I think men really do more work. They're a little bit more, not necessarily intelligent, but they get work done quicker and less mistakes.
So you think that women are lazy and basically?
Well, I think there's a place. I think there's a place for women, and the place is in the kitchen. No, it's true. Guys provide the hard work and the jobs in the shelter, and women provide the babies and the food and the lovemaking, and so.
Okay.
So, how do you feel about inequality and equality today in the workforce?
It's gotten better, I believe.
If you were to give it a percentage, what percentage would it be?
Maybe 20%, 25% better than what it was 20 years ago. Still got a long way to go.
I just think that they need to understand that like women create life, and so they need to be treated equally, because if they aren't treated equally, we have no more life, right?
Yes, that's true.
I mean, if I was a woman, I'd be like, hey, I'm not going to procreate unless you pay me equal wages.
Today on the streets of Long Beach, we encounter people of different ages and different backgrounds to get their opinion on globalization and gender.
That was an experience. Although windy, we managed to get a couple of opinions of people from that community. To my surprise, the people had a lot to say on gender in the workforce.
That was amazing. Taking our cameras to the street gave us firsthand the reality of how us as Americans feel when it comes to gender and globalization.
Yes, indeed it was. The three college girls were very educated in the subject, providing us with statistics and how their opinions are related to others in the opinionated document.
Yes, I agree. When interviewing the gentleman with his own business, His views coincided with those of the young college girls, and his views on the workplace seemed to be one of the factors for him going into business for himself.
Very much so. Education seemed to play a major role in those people who ranged in their early 20s to those who ranged in their 30s and up, who based their opinions on experience.
You felt that way too? When interviewing the older gentleman who was in the military, he spoke of how things have changed since his era, but there could be more changes.
How about the gentleman who owned his own trucking company but had to give it up due to the economy?
That is another subject in itself, but let's stay on track. The trucking company owner believed within his own company that he would hire who was most qualified and give truck runs to who could complete the run on time. He also felt that most trucking companies would give women the same opportunity as men.
That I felt was based on his opinion and not on the facts of the trucking industry.
Well, what about the gentleman who felt that women ought to be at home and left out of the labor workforce?
Ignorance plagues every nation.
So you disagree?
I disagree to a point. If a woman cannot physically handle the work in the field of the labor, then I would agree that she has not fulfilled the position, but my view is the same as that of any other man.
Among the 7 people that were interviewed, the majority felt that there was progress in the gender movement that revolved around women. But yet, women still have not been equal to men in the workforce. However, that gentleman who felt that women were exactly where they needed to be, at home, he felt that women should not be in the labor workforce because that was a place strictly for men.
In a world with so much ethnicity, diversity, cultural differences, and of course men and women, how can we still believe that individuals are still currently placed in the workforce based on gender and not based on qualifications? Today, men still outnumber women in the particular areas of the workforce such as corporate or management positions, and men are still currently making more of a higher salary than the women are. This year we have seen somewhat of an equal playing field when it came to the presidential election. Hillary Rodham Clinton ran for president, and although she did not win, we can all agree that this was a further step towards equality. America is still the nation of democracy, and America may have its prejudice, but we can all agree America is constantly progressing in a nation of change and knocking down barriers, as what we have seen in this past presidential election, with America choosing its first African-American president, President Barack Hussein Obama.
Go Obama.
Despite our country's inconsistencies, our country is forever changing, and we are forever progressing toward change in all aspects of socialism. This may be the very reason why our forefathers incorporated the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights, to ensure a change in our forever changing world in which we all live in. I'm Rithy.
And I am Vanessa.
We would like to thank our producer, cameramen, editors, field reporters for making this film possible, and a special thanks to all our participants. Thank you for watching Globalization Tonight on the Sociology Channel.